What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of The Block is Hot. Today, we're having a very interesting interview with Justin Cruz, who is one of the leaders and founders of Old Money, also known as Woodrow Wilson, if you follow with like the whole story they have been creating. Now, this interview is going to be very unique because we're going to get the perspective of someone who is a CNFT, NFT owner, connoisseur, and he's going to give us some really great perspectives on what to look for in a project, as well as what to do if you're looking to start your own project. But without further ado, do you want to introduce yourself to the block today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan, first of all, so I appreciate you having me on your show. So yeah, I'm Justin. Let's see, I'm a lifelong software developer. I call myself like a solopreneur, and I like to start businesses, kind of by myself and grow them from there. I learned about crypto and NFTs and Cardano all for like the first time almost a year ago, maybe 11 months ago. And since then, like I've pretty much gone full into it, right? Like I've started businesses. I quit my normal 9-to-5 job. Launched NFT projects and trade crypto and DeFi and play to earn gaming and things like that. So I'm fully exposed, I suppose. Yeah,
dude, that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. And that's one of the things that actually happened to me, bro. It's like you start getting into this and you start learning about crypto, and then you start learning about DeFi and you start learning about NFTs, and you're like, whoa, there is so much to this. And then at a certain point, it like clicks. And like, I kind of followed the same suit as you, where I'm like, all right, like, let me take a next step of this and make some YouTube videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's wild. There's so much, right? It's hard to focus down sometimes. Yeah.
For sure. Now, so there are a lot of people going to be watching this for different reasons. You know, some people are looking into creating their own project and could get this perspective, but I think a lot of value that is going to come out of this conversation is just for people that are investing into different NFT projects and are looking to up their game as far as being able to identify which projects are here to stay and last and which projects are worth really investing in. And the first question that I kind of want to start us off here is, what do you think is the foundation of a strong CNFT project? What are you looking for, and what do you try to create with Old Money?
Yeah, so I think that's a great place to start. So when I look at an NFT, I'll say NFT project, but even the word project I don't like to use. I think when it's like businesses. Right. So when I look at an NFT project, I'll still say project, but I look at the founders, right? And I think to myself, okay, these people are now in a position of almost being a CEO, right? They're going to have a lot of capital, and are they going to be able to execute, right? And I don't know, like good ideas and things like that are kind of like a dime a dozen, right? But it takes a special mix of things to execute and to make things happen. So yeah, when I start my foundational research on a project, I start to look at the founders.
So the first step that you look at is really the team behind the project. Now, the one thing that does happen a lot in NFTs is there's a lot of ambiguity. Like, we don't necessarily know who the founders are for a lot of these different projects. So if they aren't doxed, what are some of the things you look for to identify the winners and losers when it comes to almost like the CEO of these different projects or businesses?
Yeah, that's a great point, right? Because I would say a wide majority of the people are, there's a certain degree of doxing, right? You may have some exposure to who you are, give some of your past experience, but not have your picture, your real name, things like that. But I think you could look at what they've put out so far as a judge of kind of their competence and expertise, right? And that can go from like the website, right? Like, is this just a WordPress site that's been knocked off and a couple colors have been changed? I look at like the copywriting on the website, right? Do they sell me on the value proposition, right? Do they have a really strong call to action? Things like that. And then of course you look at the art naturally, right? I think of things like uniqueness. Like obviously can mean a lot of things, but like, is this just art that's like following some popular trend? Is this, when I think about an artist and someone that has a creative mind and that's their outlet of creativity is creating art, like I would hope that they have some kind of unique aspect that they want to incorporate into the project and not just like blatantly rip off, this thing that's hot right now. So, I look at the art almost in that way. And then I look at like their marketing too, right? And not just like, oh, they have this many Twitter followers or this many Discord members, but like looking at it on a deeper level, compare their engagement to their followers, right? On their posts that they're not giving away some NFT where it's just kind of normally like, what's that engagement like? What are the people saying in the comments there? Similar with Discord too, like hop in there, see what's happening, feel if it's organic or not, things like that. So yeah, you kind of do all those things, and that gives you a tell on the founders, experience and what they put towards the project, even if you don't know who they are.
No, I completely agree with that too. And it's funny because in a lot of my videos, I'll talk about the website of a project and why it's such a big deal, because it really shows like the different expertise or skills or standards that they may have as owners or what they're really trying to do. Because if they're doing what you say and just kind of copy a WordPress or something like that, then they might not be putting as much effort into some other things in the project. And I think that marketing point you brought up a lot, like actually looking at genuine engagement, that's super important too, because you can look at these different accounts that have 8,000 Twitter followers, but if their main posts that aren't giveaways are only getting 10 likes, then the real like interest is probably a lot lower than that number that so many people just kind of gravitate towards. So just to kind of summarize what you were saying, for a foundation of a project, like for the most part, you are looking for a strong team that you can believe in. And that strong team, you can kind of derive from how well they are at marketing, their design, their uniqueness of the art, and the overall engagement that they're getting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think about it as like almost investing in the NFT. I'm investing in the person and the team and the people and their ability to execute, right? And, of course, we all have, whether it's people that we want to support or causes that we want to support and things like that, right? But for a large majority of NFTs, it is about a sense of monetary gain, and that can be done in different ways too. But yeah. So I like that exactly, right? Like how are these founders able to execute? And I think one of the things that I think maybe that's worth kind of thinking about when you're analyzing a project too is like basically NFT launches usually in these early, like when a project's first minting, are almost like fundraisers. So this person is going to get a large sum of money, and then what's their ability to use that effectively? Like, can they deploy that capital, right? So you may have someone that's just an artist and they just love to create art and everything. Well, that's growing a business is not just that, right? And same as a developer, right? Like even myself, like I just love writing code, and I could do it all day and night and everything, but you have to take care of everything else, right? So sorry.
No, that's
speaking more on the founder part. Yeah.
No, that's a really good point, man. And like, that's something that I've realized too, is like, everyone has like their own unique strengths and weaknesses, right? And it's like very hard for one person to be able to tackle everything. One person might be really great at art, but not necessarily have that business sense. And then someone might be really good at coding, but not necessarily be good at marketing. So to kind of piggy off of that, like you really, from my experience, like if you can find a team that is well diversified and has, people that specialize in each of those things, then that is odds are going to be a lot more successful from my experience than a project that is just a bunch of developers, or a project that is just, an artist and an artist alone. As far as like a long-term investment, maybe you want to just keep the art and you love the art. Now, to go on to the next phase of this, like when you were creating your project, or when you see these different projects being created, what sort of plan should they have if they're creating their own project, and what sort of plans are you looking for from all these other projects? Because I see a lot of them kind of do like the same copy and paste type stuff. Oh, we're going to have a metaverse, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So how exactly do you think like these projects should be organizing this?
Yeah, no, it's I'd love to drill into that. I would say for like every time before, kind of the inception of a NFT project or whatnot, like I spend like a tremendous amount of prep work. I would say like even over like 100 hours per just analyzing. And in the beginning, maybe more so as I kind of got my feet wet in the excuse me, Cardano NFT space, and just learning the ins and outs there. And I think that's very important. I don't think you should just be 1 or 2 months exposed to NFTs or Cardano NFTs and jump right into the mix. Like you kind of want to understand the game a bit, right? So, but then beyond that, and I can show you some of this stuff in screen share in a bit, but like going through almost every single project, and I have the spreadsheets and stuff, and just looking at everything from the things I talked about to their website to how they did their art, how their metadata was laid out, what was the utility that they were promising, what was their distribution method, where was most of their info of people coming from? Was it Twitter? Was it this, that, and the other? Things like that. So I would say a lot of just like upfront work on just like kind of analyzing what's out there. And what I do, I could show you my list for like old money, for example. But I'll list things that I like, and then I list things that I don't like. And when I translate that into kind of like the business plan for my own thing, I don't copy the things that I like directly. I try to think about them on a deeper level, like why do I like that, and try to implement that in my own project, right? And then all the things I don't like, I always just reference them and reread them to make sure that I'm not making the same mistakes that I believe to see other people make.
Okay, so like the big point that you're making there is, okay, there in a sense is a whole history of all of these projects that have already released. And for you were just going through these different projects, seeing what worked, what didn't. And then when, as far as like creating your own project, you just kind of took your own take on it and really dissected like, okay, this is why I liked what they did here. This is how I'm personally going to implement it my way into my own project. Now, do you mind showing that list to everybody?
Yeah, let's go through it.
Because I think that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, I think it has it's jam packed with value. There maybe is a little bit Easter eggs in there too.
Oh, okay.
I haven't screened it, so maybe it's telling some future old money stuff. Who knows? All right. Sure.
You guys heard it here first, guys.
Yeah. All right, is that kind of big enough to read?
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay. So this is a document I just call like my positioning, right? And I do this with all businesses, not just like the NFT, right? All this stuff kind of translates. So this is what I was talking about, like what are some downsides of NFT, CNFT projects that I see? Sometimes when I feel personally disconnected from the project, I'm interested in art. When they don't have a website that I can't view more information, complicated checkout experience using random data, making, back in the day when I wrote this, there was still checkouts, in Discord were a big thing. Some of these things are minor, but, some of these things kind of actually like are major things that when, incorporated right, have a big impact. Inadequate social proof and exhibiting traction, frustrated in delays, unable to see how many pieces are left and what rarities, can't understand if it's active or not, don't know the cost. I won't read through all those, but then, also then I go through and I say, what are the, this isn't the things I like, but goes into a different point of, okay, now that I've done this kind of analysis, what are my unique takes that I'm incorporating into my own? Again, I won't read through all these, but I go into, why I chose Cardano and smart contracts and
wow, this is super
sorry,
in depth, man.
and then I guess ultimately, I guess this is actually for one of my other NFT projects, but that's okay. It kind of ultimately ends in this kind of like positioning statement, right? And like, you should be able to explain your NFT project in a concise, like 2 or 3 sentences. And I always just like to start it with, this is why I created, right? And so, because this is why I created Cardano Characters. I fell in love with the mission, wanted to support the community that already existed. I wanted to give back, right? So I'm conveying like, with this, I'm conveying like my place in the community. I'm conveying my unique tech behind the project, which is kind of almost like the value prop as well. And then kind of also talking a little bit of like alluding to future plans and stuff. But yeah, I know a lot of content here, but that's one of the things I do, before really, when you're kind of conceptualizing an NFT project.
Now, if you're viewing this, I would definitely recommend pausing the video. And that's the cool thing about watching this in video format and reading through those different points, because I was reading through some of them and there is a lot of gold in there, whether you're trying to create your own project or you're really looking for these things in other projects that you think that have a lot of potential. Now, as far as, okay, so the big thing here is that before you made your project, you were like, okay, let me figure out what all these other projects have been doing, what made them successful, and really think deeply about that sort of stuff. And then you came up with a whole list that everyone can view here of the different frustrations or negatives that some projects can have, as well as potentially some of the positive things that they have done well. And then ultimately you took that information, and for old money, you were like, and I know you've done a couple projects, but for old money, you were like, okay, this is the information. This is how I want to do it my own unique way. Let me make some sort of proposition statement. Let me get that 2 to 3 sentence almost summary of what I'm trying to achieve here. And then at the same time, make sure that we're really building that strong foundation that we were talking about earlier, where you have, okay, the founders, you can believe in them. The website looks good. Everything is clear and concise. You have a good roadmap laid out. You have your purpose laid out. And then once you had all of that stuff down, now you can launch the project. So to kind of go past this now, what are some of the challenges that you've had once you've actually launched your project? And what do you think some of the biggest important things you do to basically keep this project alive so it doesn't just die?
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, that's a perfect segue. And I'll maybe dial it back just a little bit more, or a little bit back in the timeline of kind of the life cycle. So, you've immersed yourself into the space. You've understanding what works, what doesn't, so you don't make the same mistakes. You've kind of found out how to apply your own unique take to the industry, whether that be in the tech or the art or market, whatever way your expertise lies. And now I kind of hit like a deeper level of planning on the project. So let me share another.
Dude, go for it. I love
right.
seeing all of the stuff you've written down, man.
This will be direct for old money, so it could be relatable here. Okay, so this is kind of a cover. It says marketing, but it covers a lot of things, right? So I just start to think of, again, it's all the different parts of the business, and when it comes to this, and this kind of relates to, answering your question of like the longevity, and it's more than just okay, I have my website, I drop my NFT, there has to be strategies and tactics behind how you're going to grow, and of course you pivot and whatnot. So, but anyways, all right, let's dig into it. So when it comes to distribution channels, right now with the CNFTs, to me, Twitter and Discord are where you're going to get the best engagement and ultimately convert people to be customers, right, and buy your NFT. This has before, this is all before we did anything for old money. Created this document, and it just kind of goes through, maybe things like goals and things, and we didn't hit all these, right? We pivoted, and we have a lot of these in our back pocket and things like that. But again, I won't read through everything. You can pause it and go through, or I can share this whole doc afterwards. I don't mind. But yeah, it goes into how we would use Discord, how we want to set it up, how we were going to use Twitter and the different features there, and ways to engage, building on our website, different tech things that we could do there, getting listed on other websites to boost our visibility, to increase our inbounds, to boost our SEO, increase our reputation, right? Get listed on these directories, and when you're making releases, and okay, here's some tactics and ideas around using YouTube and content creation, and again, Google, and funneling people through Google, newsletter, using Reddit and blog, kind of listing some other things here, partnerships, podcasts, and interviews. I don't know, a lot of little nuggets in here.
Dude, this is insane. You're gonna have to let me get access to this document, bro.
Yeah, for sure. NFT giveaways. The inception of the inflation times there, where we came up with the idea of kind of having a newspaper NFT that was giving away part of the plot and the story and games and things like that. Some of these are marketing tactics that I really haven't even executed on, so feel free to steal them, I guess. But another great I don't know, call it a marketing tactic or what have you, is like participating in other Cardano NFT projects, right? Like when I think about my return on investment for like buying an NFT from a popular project that I think their community would relate well with my community, yeah, and like all that cross-pollination that happens with like us jumping in their Discord or getting a ton of Twitter back and forth with like no brainers, like super huge ROI, right? And this is all sorts of ideas about future things. One of my specialties and expertise is in technology, so I'm trying to use that in unique ways to market. Lists of all different websites and potential partners, and some of my favorite projects and other people I follow and major influencers, right? The list goes on, right? So I don't know, that's just goes to, I scroll through that a lot just to speak to kind of a lot of the prep work that goes in. Stop blabbering now.
Dude, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like I had my mouth open for part of that. Like it's just the amount of prep work that you guys have done. I mean, there's no, like, obviously that's why old money has done so well, especially recently, and why people are picking up the project. It's because like you guys put in those hours and hours and hours and hours and hours into really thinking about every single aspect of this project before you even made it. Like that is just huge props. Like that is some next level stuff, because I consider myself like a pretty analytical person. But like I was not, I mean, you had every single website on there, every single point on there. I mean, that is just next level, dude.
So I appreciate the props, and even scrolling through that now, I see things and it's outdated. Like the space moves so fast, and but that kind of work also got me so in tune with the space as well, right? So not only am I kind of shaping my own projects or businesses, but it's just getting me deeper and deeper, and leveling me up. So well worth your time to do something like that.
Now, one of the big things with like these different CNFT projects and NFT projects that has a lot of importance is community. And it's a very interesting concept to have a community around some sort of investment, because traditionally we might invest in stocks or these different cryptos, or maybe we're investing in oil or gold. And there isn't necessarily like a community aspect with those different things. But what's cool about NFTs, and I made a tweet on it just like a couple of days ago, is like it's bridging so many things together, because now you can visualize your investment through a piece of art. Now you can join that community. Now you can show to other people that you are a part of that community by having like a PFP in your profile or something like that. And when I dived into your Discord, into Old Money's Discord, I noticed that there was a strong community. And even with Old Money going up so much in price recently, there really are a lot of people just holding this project. So what are some of the big ways that you've really built up this strong community where people are just like in love with the project?
Yeah, I totally agree that that's a huge factor of the success. You know, like all that kind of work that we've done. If we're talking about timeline of our NFT project, like all that kind of work, and then the building, kind of getting your first presence out there. Maybe you haven't released any NFTs yet or not, right? And getting that kind of your tribe formed, right? Your first 100 people who actually care, who listen. When you're getting to that stage, like yeah, like it's immensely important in the success of the project. Like Old Money would not be where it is today if it wasn't for all the MFers out there. And like it's a blend of like what's the best way to put it? Like where the cars driving down the highway and Trixon and I are just making sure it's on the road, right? But like the MFers are driving it, right? And what we like to do is make sure like we're constantly trying to like provide value, right? And that's beyond just trying to make sure that that the assets that they hold are appreciating in value. That can go to providing alpha. It can be me taking the time to do things like that and drop some knowledge on, maybe that helps them. It could be providing entertainment, which we like to do in Old Money, and promoting just kind of promoting it, but not like forcing it, and just doubling down on what sticks. We've had so many things that we haven't planned that are like core to Old Money that were from the community. And one of my favorite examples is our auctions. We have Dilly, an MFer who came in and just kind of naturally started taking over and doing auctions. And now it's like it's part of Old Money, right? And that was never in my doc or anything like that, right? But that just speaks to how strong a community can be.
Now, what sort of ways are you like promoting engagement in your community? Like how do you get people involved and engaged in the project? Like, because like what I noticed with a lot of projects is there's a ton of hype in the beginning, and then a lot of them, like the hype just goes down over time and it kind of fades away. How do you ensure that doesn't really happen with your project? Like, how do you ensure that like people are on the Discord, they're chatting, they're engaging? And this is even more important than just trying to create a project, guys. If you're listening, these are different things that you can be looking for in these different Discords that you potentially might invest in their project. Like, how many people are talking? Has this project been around for a while? Are people still engaged? Are people still interested? Are people still feeling like a part of the community? Like, what's your sort of advice for that?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think like I'll drop a couple of kind of tactics or things I like to follow. Like I have Discord pretty much like permanently up now, and just being able to kind of witness kind of the sentiment, what things are popular, what things do people say that really seem to stick, the memes, the emoji, whatever it may be, right? Like really live it, right? Like ultimately, like I'm an MFer just like all the rest of our community too, right? Like so yeah, just being really into that. And I think like one of the ways to almost maybe like force it to be organic is like, let's say you're setting up your Discord server, right? Like and you look at some popular Discord servers and like, oh, they got a channel of people talking about movies, and some people talking about crypto, and one people talking about this, and it's like, okay, let me make my Discord with 50 channels. Well, if you only have 50 people, right, like you're gonna have this fragmented communication experience, right? So like with Old Money, we have one Gen Pop channel, and all the communication goes there. And because I'm just living in there, I know, wow, like everyone here really has this interest, right? Like, and things just kind of spawn naturally off of that, right? And that promotes this inclusion that I kind of talked about. And sometimes like the amount of people that have told me like, and not prompted to tell me, like they tell me out of the blue, unrequested, like the value that I have gotten from old money like far exceeds any monetary value that I will get, or you know, like, and that just goes to speak to, yeah, that strong community. Like when I know there's people that wake up and they hop into Discord, and right before they go to sleep, they go in the Discord and they say goodnight to everyone, like, right, like that's going beyond you know, flipping NFTs.
Wow, dude. That kind of stuck with me there for a second. Yeah, it's crazy because even for myself, like when I first got it's so funny because like when I first got into crypto, like back in 2017, my initial fascination with it was this monetary aspect, because I didn't really understand what crypto was about. I just knew that one of my friends was super into computers, and he's like, dude, we should build an Ethereum mining rig. And I was in college. I was like, dude, like we get free electricity, screw it, like let's do it. And you know, in the beginning when I didn't know too much about crypto, it was like, okay, like how can I make a lot of money from this? And the business side of things. And sort of like you, I've always been like a solopreneur kind of dude, always doing random side hustles and stuff. And one thing that was interesting was when I started really learning a lot more about crypto, I started to understand what crypto really stood for and the different worldwide benefits and equity and equality that this can provide throughout the world, and the different opportunities this can create in countries that don't have as much opportunity. And just sort of this decentralized thought process of money being in control of the people, and not these malicious governments sometimes, or you know, corrupt individuals. And you know, over time I started like really like connecting with like the meaning behind cryptocurrency more than the money. And a lot of times when I see new people get into crypto right now, it's like, okay, how do I make money? What can 5x, 10x, 50x? And that's what all these influencers are capitalizing on. Hey, you'll 100x your money tomorrow. And I didn't want to do that as a, you know, as an influencer when I made my own channel. But one of the things that's been really particularly interesting for me has been NFTs and my thought process with NFTs. Because when I first got into NFTs, I didn't really understand it too much. I was just like, because I was getting in pretty early, I was like, what's this Pikachu with an ass? You know, thick Pokemon. I was buying random stuff, trying to figure out how to make money in this, you know, getting destroyed by gas fees on Ethereum. And I didn't really understand it at the beginning. But then as time went on, and especially as I've started covering this content, there's so much that goes into it. And that whole community aspect you brought up, where people are literally saying good morning and good night, I mean, that is a value so much bigger than making money. And even me, sometimes, like I'm a very analytical guy. I like trading. I like swing trading. So I'm like, oh, this is a good buy-in price. This is, but like what people don't understand is like when I'm making a video, I'm covering a specific topic and I'm trying to be concise. And it's like, okay, this is a market update video. I'm trying to knock this out in 10, 15 minutes and give you guys what I think is happening in the market. But there is so much more into this, that community aspect, that, hey, this guy might be having a hard time in his life. Maybe he feels lonely. Maybe he's going through some stuff, but he's able to go on this Discord and be able to relate and have this family in a sense that are all under one umbrella, in this case, old money, and they feel like they can relate to them about something and they have a similar interest. And we've just never been able to see that or experience that before with any other asset. Like I was talking about earlier, like there's just this whole in depth of it. And I don't want to go too in deep in here, but even my YouTube channel, it's like, bro, like to see people in the comment section say first one here, or say, oh, dude, I'm so excited for your videos, or, oh, I watch every single one of your videos. Like that has given me a level of fulfillment that is far outweighs any monetary gain that I can make from it. And it's just such a bigger picture. And it's cool to see that your project has done like a really great job at that. Like even when I was in your Discord, you know, there's this whole culture in there. Like everyone's like, what's up, motherfuckers? Like all this stuff like that. And it's cool how you created this. And I like how you were saying here that it's almost taken a mind of its own. It's driving the car. The community is driving the car. You guys are doing stuff like this, hopping on interviews and trying to do your end of the bargain. But for the most part, the community is really driving the direction of this project now. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah, that was a great summation of a lot of those key aspects that, yeah, I think that I attribute to the success of Old Money. And, you know, like turning back on like the business side a little bit, you know, it almost feels weird now to say like target customers, right? But like in the beginning, when you're starting off with the project, right, I'm relating it back to, you know, I built a lot of like SaaS businesses, like software, right? So, you know, I'm thinking about funnels and you know, okay, you know, getting people exposure, and then, you know, getting them the value proposition and converting it and things like that. So, but, you know, when I'm thinking about Old Money and in those beginning stages, I'm like, okay, you know, who's going to be interested in this project? Well, you know, everyone that I speak to kind of has that similar kind of aha moment, just like I did, just like you did with crypto, and understanding, like taking a deeper look at, you know, the money that you've been saving in your, you know, traditional bank savings account, and you know, things like inflation and things like you know, yeah, you know, debasing about so, you know, it's this relatable topic, right, that most of us have that experience with and into crypto. So that's kind of just like, you know, a foundational element. And then, and like you mentioned, right, it kind of takes its
Mind of
own
its own in a sense.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and we guide it, and we promote it, and yeah, you covered it better than I, more or less.
Now, to kind of spin off of this, I know they're pretty similar topics, but there's the whole community engagement aspect and getting people engaged and paying attention. Now, with NFTs, a lot of price movement and a lot of that sort of stuff really is correlated to hype. And I've talked about this in a couple of videos of like, okay, what is going to hype up this project? Is there, you know, going to be some sort of release or different things like that? What have you guys done on the Old Money team, and what do you recommend projects out there doing to really just keep the hype alive, to keep people excited about this?
Yeah, that's great. If anyone out there hasn't watched your video, I don't know the exact title, but you talk about kind of the movements and like the floor prices of projects and how they change related to the sentiment of the market, and you know, kind of almost like traditional crypto, where it's was it buy the rumor, sell the news type of stuff, right? And riding those waves and buying back and stuff. Very, very valuable video there if you haven't seen that one. But yeah, so maintaining kind of the hype, or the community and the growth and everything. I would say one of the things that's kind of deceiving, I think can trip a lot of people up, is like a false perception of a big community. I kind of relate that to like, or maybe the clearest example is like looking at Twitter or Discord and looking at how many people are in your Discord or how many followers you have on Twitter, right? And you say, oh, you know, well, I have 5,000 people that follow me on Twitter, so like, if I come out with 5,000 NFTs, you know, like simple, but you know, that's definitely not the case, right? Like a Twitter follow is just a super easy click, right? That's definitely different than like spending your hard-earned money on something, right? Like that's so different. So yeah, I like to try to use different metrics on making sure that not only am I making my community happy and making sure they're strong, like that previous points that we talked about, but like growing the community too, which can sometimes be hard to juggle both. So yeah, I like to look at like my unique wallet holders in my project and say, okay, that's my, you know, not my members in Discord or anything like that. You know, my NFT holders are kind of my audience, and then, you know, focusing on ways to grow that. One of the things I'll mention with Old Money that is a a tactic or whatnot that can be played out in many different ways with other projects is thinking about releasing NFTs for different reasons, right? And not just having like your signature collection right off the bat. So I'll go through old money because it's a easy, relatable example, easy to talk about. So in the beginning, we don't drop the bills, right? But everyone kind of knows that the bills are the thing, right? Because they're in your face and they're on the marketing and whatnot, right? But it kind of starts off with these newspapers, right? And kind of the purpose, let's say, behind those is kind of like, I would say, like, marketing is the main purpose, right? So you put it at a price point that's not going to break the bank. You don't want to make it too cheap that it's like gimmicky, right? And it has some quality and value to it, right? But you want to price it and you want to make enough that there's scarcity, so that like that you eventually sell out and things like that. But and then creates FOMO, but like that, like you're trying to just balance all these things, right? So when we come out with our inflation times, it's very much so like a marketing thing. Like we want to grow our community, and that's why, like, as we mature, we release more, and we kind of pivot those numbers based on like those metrics and things that I was talking about. And then when we have our campaign materials, is another kind of series that we do in Old Money, and that's more geared towards like community engagement and testing things with utility and more fun. So with those, there's more quantity involved. There's a much lower price point, things like that, right? And yeah. So and then we have kind of our main signature collection, right, which we put all of the kind of the marketing hype behind and have a bigger hype cycle and things like that, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So like there's a long kind of I don't know what you want to call it, like a playbook to it all, right? And because there's this longevity to it, right? There's not this one big it kind of creates just perpetual motion, and you have to climb out of these big dips where you may lose a lot of your community and whatnot. All right, I'll stop there. I covered a couple points.
No, that's super interesting, because I think that you guys are one of the few projects on CNFTs that have taken that approach of, before releasing your main, I don't know, pie, pizza, whatever you want to call it, you were releasing some of these appetizers first. Like, okay, here are maybe some newspapers, and like kind of built up to this main event. Because like I can't really think of too many other projects that have taken that approach, but I actually really do like that approach, because one, you're going to get a lot of real data on, who's actually interested in this project, and more than just a follower sense, like who's willing to, in a sense, actually invest in this idea and concept with you guys. But you can also get data on the technical side. Look at, like, okay, was this a good minting process? Like you can see what the real demand is as far as like how much you guys should be charging, the whole supply demand sort of ratio there. So that's a really interesting concept. Now, if you're a project creator, a lot of times you make your first main piece, and that's pretty much what you're focused on. Now, if someone wanted to take this approach, what are just some general ideas of different things that they could do? Because in your sense, it made a lot of sense, right? Like you have this whole story, this whole campaign, you could do these campaign materials, you can do this lore with the newspapers, and it all kind of tied together. Like, how would you recommend that for a project? Let's just say Pendulum. I don't know if you know Pendulum, it just came out, it's an art-based project. Like, what are some of the things that they could have released early on, or just any project that could be the stepping stones to the main thing?
Yeah, that's a great thing to dive into. I feel like you mentioned the point about the tech, and that was definitely something that on my mind, driving the tech behind the Old Money. Like I do, and it goes back to that document of seeing all the things in the CNFT space that I didn't like, right? A lot of that was about the minting experience and the checkout and things like that, and how I thought I could push the boundaries and things in Cardano that didn't exist yet or whatnot. So yes, there was very much so intention behind those early drops. Like I would tell Tristan, like, we're not dropping the bills until until I feel like the tech's ready. Like that we got to hammer it. We got to have one that hammers it, you know, like, and we would say things like that. And I'll say this, like we had the bills ready, you know, November, you know, or whatever, or like, or I don't know, my timing may be off, but like we had the bills ready way before kind of the rest of the stuff, right? And then it was this intentional holdback to say, well, we got it. We want to get our community to the right level. We want to make sure the tech is hardened enough. We want to make sure that, you know, our target customer, or, you know, we got that idea of who those people are, right? Like, you know, just validating our assumptions and things like that, right? And you know, there's a beauty or whatnot to NFTs, in that, like, really, especially with Cardano, right? Like they're not expensive in the grand scheme of things, right? So I feel like it's another thing that has an extremely high ROI to it, as well as yeah, if you can find another way to kind of incorporate NFTs, right? And don't think about it with money, right? Especially when you're trying to harden the tech, or you're just trying to grow the community, like do it at cost, or you know, have some capital up front that you can invest in the business and do things like that, right? I'm coming up with things off the spot, but like maybe you have a project that, you know, another project has a very similar audience to and would gravitate towards your project. Well, like scan the blockchain, get all their addresses of the holders, and airdrop them an NFT. Like, oh, there's a cool unique marketing thing that doesn't cost you a lot of money, taps you into the existing community that you know has similar vibes or whatever, right? Yeah.
No, that's interesting. And I actually just thought of another project that has done a similar approach, and that's Overexposed, with their OG mechanisms, right? Like, and how that's going to act like a whitelist thing. And now we're seeing those go for like 1,200 ADA right now. So I actually do like that concept a lot. And it's cool that you're talking about it. That's what's cool about talking to an owner that's been through this and has, you know, experience in this. It's like, you're going to pick up on some really important, valuable lessons. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this interview with you. It's like, there are all these people trying to create projects. Like, they might be really great at art and they want to create something, or they might be either way, they want to create something, but they have no idea where to even start. And there hasn't really been a video like this of talking to a project that has actually done this successfully. So like, the value that you're providing here for anyone who's been thinking about it and has just been on the sidelines is just immense. Now, I want to segue into the next thing that I have a question about is, where do you think, so obviously marketing and exposure are some of the most important things when it comes to, you know, launching a successful project. Where do you think people should really double down? I know that you had talked about Twitter a little bit. I know you had talked about Discord a little bit. Where do you think these projects should really spend most of their time? And in those spaces, what do you think is the most valuable thing they can really be posting and really be doing?
Yeah. See, I could talk about this stuff for a while. I find the kind of the marketing and that kind of community growth aspect all quite interesting. So when it comes to, I think, like, cover the basics, like I think of Twitter as my mechanism to like convert new people, and Discord as my mechanism to talk to my existing people. And you know, you have to kind of balance you know, kind of between those. Some things about Twitter, I'd say, like, Twitter is something you have to watch out for, where it can almost like inflate your own ego sometimes, because like it's like a social media platform that'll just feed you, you know, your what you like and what you see, right, and things like that. So yeah, I just found myself, you know, trying to always take a step back and think about things, not always you know, be reading the same sentiment and Twitter and whatnot, right? So just I guess the word of advice is like, kind of get different perspectives from Twitter, and not fall too much in a single camp or anything. One of the things I like about Twitter as well is it gives you a way to interact with people publicly that, like, you know, may have a following or an audience already. I'll mention a cool little trick we did with old money, I guess. You know, in our first newspaper, there's like a section where we kind of highlight all these Cardano community members. And then there's some people that I've talked to and not some people that I didn't talk to, but to me, that's like kind of like planting a seed, like in the future that could be a callback, you know, to a person. And, you know, the place that today, you know, someone that's never heard about old money may come across it today and say, oh, you know, did you know that like 6 or 7 months ago, we actually made an NFT that you were featured in? And yeah, you know, it's another kind of like tactic that I like to use. I would say like there's a lot of other platforms that can kind of almost be like a time sink that are probably not worth it right now with the general things. Like I think things like Facebook, I think like are completely like almost a waste of time. Instagram would seem like a good you know, means to get out there with art and everything, but I find it like very rarely do you get people that convert. Like there's not like a huge like NFT kind of people exploring NFTs on Instagram. So any traction that you get on Instagram will just be the people who already are all the way are into you and will just follow you because they love it anyways, right? Like it's not like a way to grow. I would say like you know, writing things like blog articles and things like that, they can have a high ROI if it's done right. We even had like some of our community members you know, do some of that content creation, and we try to reward them and promote that kind of stuff. I would say like your community is one of your biggest marketers too, right? And that transcends any kind of platform or anything like that, right? Like a lot of these people are invested with their money, and you know, psychologically they're like inclined to show. You know, sometimes to a fault, right? Like they'll ride a project to the ground, but yeah, like same way, just like kind of cultivating that. And it's just the same as I have Discord up all day, and I have Twitter all day, you know, making sure I'm you know, talking to the people out there and jumping in the conversations that I can provide value. And yeah, let's see what I would say. YouTube is another great one. Like I get a lot of my knowledge and understanding of things from YouTube, right? So having the right medium there. I don't really like to use like the paid services. Like I've tried those kind of like paths, like a paid show kind of thing. I think that goes back to like it's just not organic. Like I can't imagine paying for a show like all the MFers, like, you know, like it just doesn't even make sense. Like it you know, the community will more than do that for you, right? So your time is well spent, you know, investing in that community and talking to them in Discord and whatnot. Yeah, and then I think one of the things that's kind of hard, but something to always keep in mind as you're kind of growing the project and maybe hitting some of these later phases after you've launched during mint and you haven't minted immediately and things like that, is the kind of concept of like attribution or whatnot. But like where are the people coming from that you're attracting to your project? Like it could be any of those platforms that I'm mentioning, and maybe it's contrary to something I mentioned, right? So it's important to at least know, like, oh wow, you know, my posts on Reddit are really just taking off. The people seem to really be taking it there, right? Okay, well let's double down there and test that through. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I also agree with you. Those were a lot of really good points. I agree with you on the whole shill thing too. And like, I don't do paid promotions on this channel for a very similar reason. It's like, you want your project at the end of the day, old money is a brand. You are a brand. I am a brand as a content provider. And like, you don't want to, in a sense, try to take shortcuts in order to, as a YouTuber, either make more money and grow faster, or as a project paying these shillers, because that is going to label your project in a sense. And it's kind of interesting. Like I think Boss Cat Rocket Club are very good at marketing, but we've seen sometimes they in the past more so them do some shady stuff to some people, and like that has still almost like plagued them in a sense and has created polarization with different projects. And it's interesting because like if you really take a step back and you cut all that out, it's like, oh wow, they're doing a lot of stuff. They have a lot of developers, their art, they're doing all this stuff with Boss Planet, they have these partnerships, and it's like people are more focused on this negative narrative or like what had happened in the past to where they're just completely away from the project. So doing things like shilling or paying shillers is definitely something that I think is just a short-term minded thing, especially if you are a project that is trying to survive and thrive on a long-term mindset.
Yeah, totally, 100%, right? Like, and even if you're really good at like that part, like making the right connects to boost your project, to have a bunch of hype to it, like if that's all you got, like that has no longevity to it, right? And that's not when it's not something that organic, right? You're not going to just be able to pay for shows forever, right? Like, right. So it just doesn't, yeah, it just doesn't speak to all those kind of other foundational elements that we talked about, right? That attribute to success. And yeah, and there's definitely with the reputation and things like that. Like to me, like, we've had plenty of unfortunate events in our community, right? We had one of our drops where a scammer got an address out in Discord for a minute or two or whatever, and people paid. We had for that case, right? We refunded those people just out of our community wallet or whatever. Did we have to? No, but like it's worth it to us, right? Because we're investing in these, like it's our brand, it's our reputation. Like, what's the ADA? Like, it's like a no-brainer almost. Like it's well worth cultivating that strong community. We had someone that had one of their bills kind of like like stolen from them, like via like a social con kind of situation, right? Well, the community rises up. We make tweets that say the bill's stolen. I flagged it on the website that when you pull up the bill, it marks it as it says stolen. People in the community contacted them, certain people. It's like, yeah, all that stuff is just the strength that carries it on, past just that pump and dump, sale. And yeah.
Dude, and like you're so right with that like people want to feel like the team has their back, because at the end of the day, people are investing their money that they could put into so many different things, into this project, into this team, into the foundation that you created. And they want to know that like the people running it are going to have their back and have their interest in mind. So I definitely agree with you. Like that's like a really smart move on your guys' part to like make sure they're taken care of, because then if you can create like a happy community of people that really love your project, then the best marketing technique throughout history has always been word of mouth. And if they really like what you're doing and feel like they have your back, which you should, just as like an integrity basis, it is going to have those net gains over a long period of time. Maybe they're more likely to shout you out on Twitter. Maybe they're more likely to go on these different Twitter raids. And it reminds me of like what Cornucopias did with their javelins, where they really botched the release in the sense, and it wasn't even their fault. Like I didn't really have a problem with it. But then they just gave javelins to everyone for free. And there was probably $40,000 worth of transaction costs minting those and sending those out. And they took that step. And that's when it really clicked for me with Cornucopias, where it went from, I can't believe they're launching another vehicle so soon. Logistically, that operationally, that made no sense to me. But hey, like, I know I can trust these guys, because when it comes to the end of the day, like they are going to prioritize the community they're building, and they have that long-term mindset. And you really just don't see that with a lot of projects. And I think it has to do with the scope? Like, how zoomed out are they? Are they just thinking, hey, I'm going to launch this project and we're just going to wing this? Or are they doing what you did, spent hundreds of hours on writing every single point down, making sure all the T's were tied, and are willing to make decisions where short term it might hurt you, but is going to be beneficial for the long-term picture?
Yeah, you covered that beautifully, right? It's just taking that step back, and I think, you know, in your examples, that's a great way to, you know, when you're kind of analyzing a project per se, like that speaks to they're more in there for the long haul, right? And you know, especially when we talk about, you know, these projects, if they're not doxed or anything like that, right? There's no obligation to send money or refund or whatever the different cases may be, but like going above and beyond, right? Like it just pays dividends down the road, right? When you're in for the long haul.
Okay. And kind of to segue into the next point here, let's say someone wanted to like start a project. What are some of the big learning lessons that you've had through starting yours? And what are just some key pieces of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, well, let's see. I feel like, you know, I relate it back to a lot of the topics that we talked about before with like the CEO mindset, and like kind of, you know, being prepared to live that lifestyle, if you will, right? Like spending the long hours and you know, building a team, right? And a lot of times that involves, like I mentioned, like maybe not doing your specialty or expertise, right? Instead of writing code, maybe you're hiring. And maybe instead of you know, working on your art, you're writing, right? Like, or whatever. Yeah, so you know, you just have to be ready for that, because yeah, it depends on it. I would say don't wait. Don't think, oh, you know, the market's down or CNFTs are down or Cardano, anything like that. Like things move so fast. You know, just dive in, make mistakes, learn. Yeah. I would say with Cardano, I would say, like, try to think of ways that you can utilize the features of the blockchain and what's in our ecosystem, you know, unique to your project, right? And that can make you stand out in our own ecosystem, but even beyond that, you know, with across all NFTs. What else? Yeah, yeah, like I said, like putting in a lot of that upfront work, pivoting along the way, doubling down on what sticks. Yeah, I'm just rambling off little clips now. So
no, I mean,
yeah,
I think each
some
of
advice,
those, yeah, I mean, I think each of those are like a nugget in itself. You know, because obviously there's just so much that goes into this. And I do like how you said, like, there can't be an expectation of perfection off of the rip. Because I think like some of these things are just going to be learned through going through the process, and we can try our best on figuring all these details out beforehand to try to limit stuff. But one thing's for sure that I've learned through the different things I've done is, like, there's always going to be unexpected stuff that comes up. There's always going to be problems that arise. There's always going to be situations that need to be figured out. And that kind of goes back to who's running this project, right? Like, is that person going to be able to handle botched drops? Are they going to be able to do the right thing when it comes for it? Are they going to invest the appropriate amount of time into growing this project? Are they going to be able to overcome these different hurdles that come up? And like, that's why I really liked how you talk about the team aspect a decent amount through this interview, because like, that is just so important. And it's like, it sucks that there aren't as many people really doxing themselves in a sense in this industry. And I know like the different reasons why, but it makes it hard as like someone trying to find projects to invest in to get that connection with the team and really believe in them when they don't know the full picture sometimes.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's a thing you have to blend with the whole doxing thing and everything. But yeah, it does. I feel like tie it all back full circle back to the founders and the creators of the project and their ability to yeah, fulfill their promises and whatnot. And I think another thing too that to be careful for too is like I talk about all the prep work and all the that kind of stuff, but like that's just kind of an outline. And blueprint's not the right word for it, right? But it basically speaks back to just being able to pivot along the way, right? So like some more concrete examples, like when I'm looking at a project and I see things like generic things like we're going to build a metaverse, right? Well, in my mind, I go, look, okay, they don't get it. Like they just don't like get it, right? Like to build a metaverse, like that's an extreme undertaking, right? Like look at like Facebook and Meta, and how many people and money to have something behind something like that, right? Like going back to are you a CEO that can execute and compete against that, right? Like just like be careful with over promising and with crypto you can't plan a year down the road. We don't know what it's going to be like, right? Especially with Cardano, it's so early. We're just now getting into the dApps and everything. Yeah.
Now, I think what would be cool to kind of like finish this off here is if you just kind of went through a project for everybody. Like if you shared your screen, went through the website, looked at the different things you look for, kind of pick it apart, maybe talk about the art, where you see it going, the whole value proposition of it. I think that would be valuable for everyone watching to just get your perspective.
Yeah, let's do it live. Do you want to pick one and I'll go through it?
Oh man, you know what a controversial one has been is Mad Dog Car Club. I think that could be an interesting one to go on. Yeah, I think that would be an interesting one to talk about.
Let's see, I do not know about this one, so
this is going to be a brand new take on it. This is the raw info here.
All right. I don't want to. I want to speak honestly because I feel like there's value to it, but I also don't want to. I definitely don't want to bash anyone. But
speak 100% honest.
I'm gonna speak with honesty. Okay.
The people who watch my channel know I'm just brutally honest on a lot of this stuff. So just go for it.
All right. I think that's trying. So basically, I hit them up on Twitter. I hit their link tree, and I open a bunch of these. I'll usually start with their website. Okay, it has a different theme to it about the drive. Vague, don't know what that means. Unique thoughts speeding around the metaverse. Red flag word. Exclusive access to a plethora of benefits, right? Like to me, that's so vague and like too vague, right? Like I talk about being able to pivot, but that's too much, right? Like, well, we're going to provide value, right? You can't say that, right? I don't stuff like this. I like to read copy that has like personality. So like something like this is like very generic, right? Like, check out sneak peeks. Okay, so then like art wise, with art, I think one of the things too is that I think about this with art. If I see a piece of art that like I like genuinely like as like I want to support this artist because it's so cool or whatnot, like chances are there are many people like you. But also there's an interesting thing with NFTs in that like I don't know, sometimes there's just art that sticks that doesn't make sense or something like that, right? So you can't always judge it quite in that sense, I suppose. But then I also think about, okay, we're talking about racing, but then they're the dogs, right? Okay, all right, let's see what the roadmap looks like. Pre-launch, launch, minute, public sale, buybacks, launch celebration. Okay, so they want to sell it. They're gonna have, what is that, 300,000 ADA. They're gonna have some expenses. So I don't know, let's say they have 250,000 ADA. Okay, what are they gonna do with all that ADA? Okay, they're gonna spend some of it buying stuff back. Okay, so then they're saying that people who mint, they're gonna try to raise the floor on them temporarily. Okay, so the NFTs are a lottery ticket. You maybe get some ADA. I don't know. I'd rather just go to the convenience store, maybe buy a lottery ticket. Exclusive monthly rewards. 3 random will split 6,000 ADA every month. I wonder where that 6,000 ADA is coming from. If that's coming from the original stuff, then where's the budget to execute on the rest of the roadmap? These people aren't going to work for a year for free afterwards, giving people 6,000 ADA every month, right? Like they're going to go on some other things. Real world utility, okay. Events, okay. Right, okay. So then there's nothing else. So I think about, okay, I mint this. The floor goes up a little bit because they do a buyback. You know, I'm in a raffle to enter something, and then I'm, you know, some real world rentals. All right. Let's. I'm gonna jump in there. Let's look at their Twitter real quick. Decent number of followers. Doesn't really give the value prop too well. No, all right. I guess maybe that's enough on that one. But yeah, I don't know. I this could do wildly well. I don't know. It may have already done wildly well. I have no idea. I guess that's a quick live take on that one.
Yeah. So what are your overall, what are some of the things you think they did well? What are some are going well for them? And what are some of the negatives or flags that you had with this project? And just to give you some more information, they have not released yet. And some people are kind of like, that are saying they're kind of like a Boss Cat Rocket Club type thing. People are kind of comparing them to that sort of feel that Boss Cats had in the beginning. So what is your overall, like, what are they doing well? What's going for them and what are the negatives?
Yeah, I would say like, I'm not too familiar with Boss Cat to make that comparison, but if you're familiar with Boss Cat and you see this and it seems like they're copying a lot of the elements of it.
Yes.
Stylistically, what they're promising, messaging, you know, in those different means, and you're hard pressed to find other unique parts about it. And like, yeah, there may be like, oh, Boss Cat Rocket Club doesn't have the lottery, but you know, or things like that. But like, you know, what's highly unique to this project? Other projects have the lottery, so like, and if there's not anything there, then is it just one of those opportunistic things, you know? And the NFT stuff is dangerous, and I hate to see it sometimes, but you know, it's I don't know, I would put it, it's quite easy to do something like that. If you, not to say that this project's doing that, right, but to be involved in the market, to do all that kind of preliminary research, like I mentioned, and then just be opportunistic and take advantage of people and things like that, right? So I guess a lot of this is speaking to how you protect yourself against those things. You know, I got to go back to like the art and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, like put one of those up against like old money, right? Like, but I'm an old money fanboy, so
you might not, you might be biased a little bit.
Yeah, you know, like they talk about, you know, building a metaverse, which is like, okay, you know, even if like talking about building a game, that's hard, right? Like, that's going to take a big team of different varying expertise. If they mention that we have a partnership with this other metaverse that exists or is getting built, you know, okay, maybe that's a better use of time and stuff like that. What are some things that I felt were good? I don't know. I don't want to speak to, like, their website had a certain theme to it, but they may be ripping off Boss Cat. I just don't know. Right, like I didn't see that value proposition clearly on the website. Didn't really give me the call to action. Didn't have any FOMO. Didn't say anything about the founders. Maybe I didn't click around enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think with this project in particular, and this isn't like an interesting concept, but they're definitely trying to build off the hype that Boss Cat Rocket Club has created by trying to mirror some of the things, like as far as the design. You know, they're saying that they potentially might make some cars in the future similar to the Boss Cat Rockets, just the buybacks and stuff like that. And it's interesting, you brought up like the point of opportunist. It's like there are different basically ways to capitalize on other projects' success. And that's sort of what they're going for here. But what's interesting is like, let's say they're going for, like, let's say you run into a project like this where it's like, okay, they're trying to capitalize off of the hype of a previous project and trying to attract those followers. What is your kind of thought process on how successful something like this is going to be? Do you think this is something where short term you get in, you make a flip on it? Do you think it's something that could work in the long term? Like, or is this something that you would just completely avoid? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's all quite interesting too. I think the immaturity in the space, or like the lack of people doing research, are what cause like these like follow-up projects to have some success, which then causes this dynamic of like short-term flipping, which I tend not to do because I don't feel like I'm like that super in touch to like know like, oh, the boss cat people are going to gravitate towards this, like, and so I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna exit like immediately, right? Because I more look at like, that's why like I minted Clay Nation, minted Dead Pixels, bought a space, bought it as soon as I could. What are the other things? Where are they going at that point? Yeah, when I'm looking at the NFTs, I try to think about the longevity, right, and not try to ride the hype cycle, because I feel like you're only in for that. Yeah, I don't know, lost my train of thought there a little bit, but
No, I think I get what you're saying. So for you, you don't really mint too much stuff. Like, you're more so looking for projects that you feel like you can buy and just hold for the longevity sense. Like, you believe in what they're doing.
yeah. And I feel like that has a high ROI for my time, right? Like, I can't remember what I minted a Dead Pixel for, but like I have a handful of them, right? And like same with the Clay Nation, right? Like it's 100, I don't know, 50 under 108, I don't know, remember, but like look at those massive returns. And that's not to say that you can play that same game of being so intimately familiar with the CNFT space. Oh, this is a project, because of the dynamics of the quantity, and they're riding this hype that I feel like it's going to be one of those. But like, you got to protect yourself and not hold on to them, I suppose, right? So I don't know, it's an interesting thing like that. Like I guess you can't say like, well, I can't say like, oh, I wouldn't invest in this because people may not have my perspective or my approach to how they make money with CNFTs, right? I'm sure there's plenty of money in just like the quick flipping and stuff like that too, maybe more money, right? So yeah, but I guess you kind of have to think about your long term, and then you can kind of answer like, would you invest in this project, I suppose.
Sweet.
So this
Well,
might be a good one to make a lot of money on, for example, on the flip.
yeah. And also, I think for you, I mean, you're spending a lot of time on, it also just depends how much time you have. And like, whenever someone asks me for, what project should I get in, I always tell them to do their own research. But really, for me, like a lot of strategies based on how much time and how active you want to be in the space. Like, long-term holding these top projects like you're doing is going to be a phenomenal investment, when CNFTs take off. Because I think, in my opinion, they are going to, take off, whether it's this year, get next year, or 5 years, whatever the time frame is. Obviously, like, if you have like a full-time job and you're working a lot, like getting into these different flips or swing trades are definitely not going to be the best approach as far as like getting into something bigger. Now, I want to ask like one last question here. Like, and this is just a curiosity thing. Like, how many hours a week do you think you put in to old money? Like, how time consuming is this as an endeavor for you?
Oh, I don't even know how to answer this question. I would say it's like my whole life. I mean, I live crypto at this point. I work too much. I'd much rather spend time with my family, but I don't know. I'm crypto from when I wake up to when I go to sleep. uh, 80 plus hours a week on old money. I don't know. Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah.
So this pretty much, consumes your everyday life.
Yeah,
From the
it's my
time.
job. It's how I provide for my family. It's everything to me. Yeah, I bet everything on it, right? I bet on myself. Kind of leaving the traditional world, moving into crypto, and yeah. So I don't know. Like I feel like sometimes it can be hard, like you mentioned, right? Like I do remember those days, before I made the leap, right? Of like working and then at night, like trying to learn and build and things like that. And it's tough, and not everyone has a lot of me. It was another interesting thing is like when I came into the NFT space, it was this interesting dynamic because I saw so much like opportunity because like there was people that like bought ADA at a handful of cents, and then like when I entered the space, it's like near $2, right? And it's almost like, well, to those people, it's like monopoly money to them, but to me, it's not monopoly money. I could feed my family and things like that, right? And yeah, so like I don't know, I live it and breathe it, and yeah, it's all day, every day for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then I guess sorry to tie it back to just trying to slowly make that transition and things like that, right? Like I feel like you have to make some mistakes. Like you're gonna have, how many NFTs are in my wallet of just the dead projects or whatever you want to call them. I have hundreds of NFTs, Cardano NFTs, right? Like so yeah, you just got to get in the mix. Don't ever spend what you're willing to lose. And like we mentioned previously, like some of the value, a lot of the times, the value doesn't always come from monetary reasons, right? It could be, a lot of times I invest into projects that I know I don't even believe in, but I want to study them. I invest in a lot of DAO projects because I wanted to see how they're operating. I want to see what they do well, how their Discord is structured, what's the tech like. I bought I kind of like what they have going and everything, but like the mutant Crocs, because I wanted to see how their staking and their reward distribution worked and things like that, right? So just get in the mix and eventually it'll hit.
For sure. Well, this has been incredibly insightful, and I hope that everyone who is listening today is able to get some value out of this, regardless of, you being just an investor or hoping to segue into a creator, or if you are a creator. Did you want to, and I really appreciate you coming on here, Justin, and just really giving some genuine information here, some real nuggets. Is there anything you want to close with today before signing off here?
No, I appreciate you giving me this platform to share some of my knowledge and of course plug old money a little bit, but yeah, I appreciate what you do. I consider you one of the best content producers in the CNFT space, and that's why I wanted to come. You just you seem to get it right, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to more of your content. Can't wait to see where Cardano is a year from now. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's cool to see. I remember when we first talked, you were like, "Oh, I watched a couple of your videos." I was like, "Oh, that's pretty sick to hear a creator do that." And also, guys, I've brought up old money a couple of times on this channel, and they have a lot going on with them. And I actually made a video, I think it's like 7 minutes, just going over why I think old money is or is going to be a blue chip, depending on where you think it's at right now. And I really go into detail about like the different functions of this project, because there is just so much they're doing with the campaign materials, with the bills, with this whole election, with like all of these almost like subliminal messages in a sense, and just how strong the community is. So definitely check out that video and learn more about the project, because I wish I had taken more time back when these guys were a lot smaller to really dive into the project. but because it's so unique, because it's not some random ape project or gorilla project or alien spaceship project or something like that, you know, I didn't, and I wish I did. And now I'm an investor into it. And, you know, after talking to Justin here today and seeing how much planning has gone into this, I really don't think many projects out there are up to par or even on the same caliber as to the amount of work that Justin and his team has been doing before and during this phase of his project. So yeah, I hope you guys on the block enjoyed this video. Thank you, Justin, once again for coming on. And I hope everyone here has an awesome day.